Good morning, good evening, hello and welcome. Thank you all for coming. Um, nice to see some more people here this week. Last week was a little bit thin. Yeah, let's just get into it. And we start in the usual way by readjusting our motivation. Please recall why we're here, why we do anything. Of course, we all want happiness and want to avoid suffering. And we see that the actual causes of our suffering, the root causes are not outside, but rather originate in the mind. So we have to really take care of our mind, in particular cultivating virtuous thoughts and trying to weaken and eventually abandon the negative emotions, negative thoughts. And although we might be successful in doing that ourselves, then we see that we're just one of many countless beings in the universe, all who, like us, are wanting happiness and wanting to avoid suffering. So now that we have the opportunity afforded to us by obtaining this precious human rebirth, where we can make utmost progress along the path to enlightenment, we have to make sure that we put our effort in the right direction. And in particular, since we want to follow in the footsteps of the Buddha who, through a path of practice, completely transformed and purified his mind of all the negativities, afflictions, and developed all his good qualities to the highest extent, so he could offer utmost benefit for sentient beings. We want to do that. So we're going to now learn from the Buddha's own past life stories found in the Jataka Tales. And so, yeah, we direct all of our efforts so that we can learn about the various stages of practice, so we can one day very quickly become completely enlightened Buddhas, so we can also offer the utmost benefit to all sentient beings. Okay. So, okay. So, now at the beginning, also we recall the good qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha to generate some faith and aspiration for the source of these teachings. And as we mentioned last week, it's very good, whatever kind of practice we're doing, to visualize all sentient beings in the space around us, thinking that, well, if we're reciting some practice, if we're meditating, we can think that all sentient beings are meditating with us. All sentient beings in this case are going to be receiving the teachings along with us. And then in the space in front of us, to visualize our guru appearing in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha, and think that our guru has come to this place and is appearing in that aspect to guide us and to lead us to the state of enlightenment. And then, yeah, recalling these qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and aspiring to develop those qualities within ourselves, then we recite this praise. Guru, teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth. Oh, sorry, we do that 3 times. To the Guru, teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Guru, teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans. To you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Savior, to you I prostrate. With supreme signs, face like a spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees from one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from lower realms, the one path, sublime, pure reality. To the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Do not commit any unwholesome actions. Engage in perfect wholesome actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a defective view, a butter lamp flame, an illusion, a dewdrop, a water bubble, a dream, lightning, a cloud. See all causative phenomena like this. By these merits, may transmigratory beings attain the state of all-seeing, subdue the enemy of faults, and be freed from the ocean of samsara, disturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Okay. We will skip over the Heart Sutra today. Just do the refuge in bodhicitta. Actually, you know what we can do? Let's just recite the mantra of the perfection of wisdom. We can do that 3 times. Tayata gate gate para sam gate bodhi swaha. Tayata gate gate para sam gate bodhi swaha. Tayata gate para sam gate bodhi swaha. So, I notice sometimes, you know, when in his teachings with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you know, if they're running short on time, and instead of reciting the whole Heart Sutra, he will sometimes just lead the recitation of the perfection of wisdom, or the Heart Sutra mantra. So we can also do like that. So now, taking refuge in generating bodhicitta, I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By my merits of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. So now we went over these last time, and I think they're good. They're very nice. So I wanted to go over this again. These are a couple prayers. Okay, so there's a few. Well, Nicole, you're new here. Maybe you've been watching the videos, and then a couple of you weren't here last week. So in any case, in general, this series of teachings, sort of organized by the good folks at Ocean Compassion Center, on the Jataka Tales, it's the, you know, past life stories of the Buddha. And as we said, why we're studying this, why we're reflecting on this is to gain some kind of inspiration, right? We're trying to follow the footsteps of the Buddha, and therefore we need to learn about the various, practices that he did. So, of course, in other presentations, like for example, in the Abhisamaya Alamkara, which is the commentary on the hidden meaning of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, it will talk about the 37 limbs of enlightenment, the 12 links of interdependent origination, the Four Noble Truths, the Two Truths, the Three Jewels, all these things. But it will do so in a very sort of the definitions, the divisions, and all this. So in general, this is some general advice, right? Some of you're engaged in the philosophical studies, and I know from my own life, my own practice, sometimes it's very nice to read the biographies of previous masters, because it gives a kind of well, one, everyone likes a good story, right? But two, we can see like the practical application, right? So rather than just, okay, the divisions of the perfection of generosity, okay, there are four. And then, in Lamrim Chenmo talks about, how to give, who to give, these kinds of very, like the textbook, right? But then when we read these previous life stories of the Buddha, and we come across, many times the Buddha giving his own life, giving away all his possessions, we see what was actually practiced, how those teachings that we see were put into practice by the Buddha in his past life. So now, in the context of the Guru Puja, the Lama Chupa, Lama Zopa Rinpoche had recommended that in the part where it's talking about the development of bodhicitta, that these prayers of thought transformation be added. And so two of them now are talking about the Buddha's previous lives. Some of these stories are found in the Jataka Tales. Some actually aren't found in the 34 tales that were put together by Aryasura. But in any case, I thought it's good that we, recite these, and when we get into the actual Jataka Tales, we're in the middle of one that's referred to in one of these verses. And then the other one I wanted to do today it actually isn't in this prayer, but is referred to in Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand. Anyway, I'll get to that in a bit. Okay? So, when teacher Buddha Bhagavan was Prince liberating all on the path of the courageous ones, he gave away his son, daughter, and his kingdom. In the same way, may I be able to renounce with any sense of loss my family, friends, and possessions, which are so dear to me. When he was king of great courage, he fed the tigress with his own flesh. In the same way, may I be able to joyfully give this cherished illusory body to the host of Pishacha. When he was Prince Might of Love, he fed the yakshas with his own blood. In the same way, may I be able to give with compassion the warm blood of my heart, so difficult to cut, to the blood drinkers. When he was young water carrier, the son of a merchant, he liberated fish by reciting the Tathagata's holy name. In the same way, may I be able to practice the giving the holy Dharma to the infinite beings destitute of Dharma. When he was Prince, a great meaningful virtue, he was able to bear ingratitude with compassion. In the same way, may I cherish with great compassion those around me who disturb me with their ungratefulness and bad dispositions. When he was the Bodhisattva monkey, he rescued the evil man from the well. In the same way, may I benefit evil beings without discouragement and compassionately guide them without expecting favors in return. Alas, there is no one who has not been my mother and father, nor is there any moment of happiness in the realms of samsara. Therefore, may I be able to lead all my mothers including the gods and demons who appear and exist from the realms of samsara. Okay, the next to become like the Buddha, prayer to become like the Buddha in his past lives. When you were born as Maitra's daughter, you took upon your mind stream the suffering of all transmigratory beings. Likewise, may all sinning beings suffering without exception ripen on my self-cherishing. When you were born in the vast depths of hell, you generated the mind that cuts off the door to rebirth in lower realms. Likewise, may all negative karma and suffering of transmigratory beings without exception ripen upon me, and then may the lower realms become empty. Just like in your life story as the Rishi expressing patience, even though others say unpleasant words to me and strike me with weapons, may I especially come to benefit them with compassion, like a mother whose beloved son has died. As the Bodhisattva Chandra, you subdued the multitudes of wicked rakshas with the holy Dharma. Likewise, may I be able to subdue by myself alone all foolish, evil, transmigratory beings without exception. As Prince Meritorious Power, you satisfy countless transmigratory beings with the flesh of your body. Likewise, may my body in every possible way also become a means of living for all transmigratory beings. As great being, you transform yourself into the chief of turtles and save the merchants from the ocean. Likewise, may I become a bridge freeing all transmigratory beings without exception from the great ocean of cyclic existence. When you were born as the chief of rabbits, you skillfully ripened countless transmigratory beings. Likewise, may all who see, hear, remember, and touch me without exception be placed on the ripening and liberating paths. As ocean atoms, you made 500 prayers to liberate the transmigratory beings who in degenerate times lack a savior. Just as you did, likewise may I too fully complete all prayers without exception. As the wheel-turning king, rim of spokes, in order to accomplish the supreme field of Sukhavati, you perform the 3 conducts for completing, ripening, and purifying. Likewise, may I too bring those conducts to completion. May I too train the conduct of the powerful sons of the victorious one, Savior Maitreya, Hero Manjushri Samantabhadra, Akashagarbha, and so forth. Okay. So, let's see here. So, as we we mentioned last time, uh, we're now going to be using this really fine translation. The more I look at it, the more I like it. So the good folks at archive.org, in conjunction with the School of Theology at Claremont, California, just down the road from you guys, outside of LA, right? Right? You guys know that one? Really? Oh man. So there's 5 colleges there. One of my very, very good friends went to Pomona College. They're very, very small, but very good. Claremont, McKenna, Pomona, I think Scripps. Anyway, so apparently they have a school of theology, and they have put there this book for borrowing. So I was waiting to the last minute. Now we're going to borrow it for 1 hour. Hopefully it'll let me. Om Tare Tutare Ture Soha. Oops. Okay, so while this is loading, hopefully, since some of you weren't here last week, just in that other prayer, here we go. Okay. In the other prayer, yes. And hold on, let me stop this share and then let's go back. Just to reset the context. Okay. Ah, so here we have this, right? Just like in your life story, as the Rishi expressing patience, even though others say unpleasant words to me and strike me with weapons, may I especially come to benefit them with compassion like a mother whose beloved son has died. So we are in the middle of that past life story of the Buddha. As I mentioned, Kshanti, yeah, is Zupa, patience, right? So Lama Zopa Rinpoche, that was his, yeah, name. So this is different from, Shanti. Shanti, peace, right? Like Shanti Deva, right? Or, yeah. So, you'll hear in India, yeah, Shanti, Shanti. It's like peace, right? But here, Kshanti is patience or forbearance, okay? So we are in the middle of this story. And just to set the scene, okay? So there's this bodhisattva in his past life. He was a renunciate. He was living in the forest, and he was making his, the practice of patience sort of his main practice. Now there was a king in the area, and he had a whole harem of, yeah, women, and the king was very, jealous. One, two, he was very attached to sensual pleasures. So in any case, one day these his harem all go out into the forest, and they come across the ascetic, Kshantivadin, and then when the king wakes up from his kind of drunken stupor, he notices that all his women are gone, so he sets out to look for them, and then he finds all his women in the presence of this ascetic. So he gets very jealous, and then thinks that the ascetic is a phony, a charlatan, and was trying to take his women. Okay. So the ascetic had just given teachings to the women, and then the king has come to to find this scene. Okay. Okay. So again, what I'll do, I'll just read through, and then when I am moved to say something, give some kind of commentary, I will. Okay. So now, okay. Anyway, why don't we go through this? Okay. Now it happened that this king possessed a wicked and deep-seated enmity, okay, hatred, toward the bodhisattva that derived from past lives. This, combined with the fact that he was overcome by jealousy, and his composure was unsteadied by drunkenness, meant that as soon as he saw the eminent ascetic Kshantivadin surrounded by the troop of queens, he became filled with utter rage, lacking, lacking all strength of reason, and dropping all politeness, courtesy, or decency. He became overwhelmed by the evil of rage, making him sweat, change color, and quiver. His brows furrowed and his eyes squinted, rolled, glared, and turned red. All of his good looks and charm disappeared, and he ground his gold-ringed hands together his golden bracelets jangling. Insulting the eminent ascetic, he said the following words. Okay, I want to say something here. So, you know, when we talked about the practice of patience in general, right? When we look in Lamrim, there are a few outlines, of course, but among them is the faults of patience, or sorry, the faults of anger. And in that, we have the visible faults and then the invisible faults, okay? So we see this, right? Also, Shantideva himself in the patience chapter of Bodhisattva Charyavatara, he mentions the visible faults of anger that you then, you become ugly, all this, right? So even Shantideva, remember at the beginning of the text, he says, there's nothing here that has not been mentioned before, but I am, and I have no skill in poetry, but I'm composing this text in order to fulfill, familiarize my mind with these concepts. So if someone of equal merit as me will also find benefit, then that's good. Remember? Okay. So see, the visible faults of anger are here, right? You become, how do you say? Your good looks and charm disappears. You drop the strength of reason, dropping politeness, dropping courtesy, right? You sweat, you become overwhelmed, all this. Okay? That's why, right? Okay, so those are the visible faults. Of course, the invisible faults is not really talked about here, but as you know, anger, it can destroy previously accumulated virtue. And there's a lot of talk in the text. In Chandrakirti's text, it talks about 1,000 eons. In Shantideva's text, it talks about 1,000 eons of a positive karma being destroyed by 1 second of anger. And then in Chandrakirti's Madhyamika Avatara, it talks about 100 eons. So, of course, without getting into it too much, it depends on the relative level of the beings. And if, even a bodhisattva, if they get angry at a higher level bodhisattva, it can, it's more damaging. So, like that. In any case, as I always like to mention, even forgetting about these subtle workings of karma, we know from our own life experience that, in certain fits of rage and anger, we can say something that's very harmful to the other person. We can do something that's very harmful. And, in the case of, let's say, personal relationships, then sometimes it's very hard to sort of make up for it, So it's very important that we remain patient, and especially when we are upset and our mind is disturbed. Although the mind can be very disturbed, we follow the advice of Shantideva that he said in other contexts. We remain like a piece of wood and not let even the anger impel us to do something negative with our actions of body or speech. Okay? All right. Who is this charlatan of an ascetic who injures my royal splendor by laying eyes on my palace women, setting his snake like a bird catcher? When they heard this, the eunuchs were filled with alarm and panic and addressed the king, saying, "Please do not say this, your majesty, please. This is a sage who has purified himself through an accumulation of long practiced vows, disciplines, and austerities. He is called Kshantivadin." But the king's mind was confounded. Taking no heed of the eunuch's words, he exclaimed, "My word, for how long should the world be fooled by the crooked deceit of this fellow styling himself as an ascetic and not a ladies' man. So it's also very important, right? You know, when anger takes control, even these eunuchs, they're trying to explain the right way and kind of calm the king down and say, don't don't think like that. It's not how it's appearing to you right now, please. But the king's mind, totally confounded, and then didn't listen to the correct advice, right? Mm. Well, I'll expose the cheating nature he hides under his ascetic costume full of deceitful guile. With these words, he took the sword from the hand of his female attendant and advanced on the ascetic like a foe, intent on slaying him. The queens had been informed of the king's arrival by their attendants, and when they saw that rage had dispelled all gentleness from the king, they felt distraught, and their eyes rolled with panic and alarm. Standing up and paying their respects to the eminent seer, they approached the king and raised folded hands to their heads so that their faces peered through like lotus buds emerging from their sheaths in autumn. Wow, that's very poetic, huh? You know? But their graceful, modest, and charming behavior could not pacify the king's mind as it burned with anger's fire. Fury had made the king's conduct become violent, and when they saw him charging forward, weapon in hand, glaring at the eminent seer with a rigid stare, the queens took the opportunity to entreat him and blocked his way, saying, "Divine king, please stop. Please do not be rash. This is illustrious Kshantivadin." In his wickedness, however, the king assumed that the ascetic had won over the queen's hearts, making him even more angry. His furrowed brow and his fierce and jealous sidelong glances made his disapproval of their audacious request all too apparent. Casting his eyes at the attendants in charge of the women, he shook his head, making the tips of his crown and earrings tremble. He then turned his glare onto the women, addressing them with the following words. He only speaks of forbearance, but he does not practice it. For he could not forbear the desire to have contact with women. His words are one thing, his actions are another. His pernicious mind is again something else. Who is this dissolute man sat in the ascetic forest, brazenly banging away about his deceitful vows? The women were filled with despondency when the king struck down their entreaties, his heart hardened by fury and violence, for they were well acquainted with the king's ferocious and implacable nature. Grieving for their eminent ascetic, they lowered their heads with shame and withdrew from the area, obeying the hand signals made by the attendants in charge of the women, who were also distraught with fear and despair. We have caused the king's anger against this innocent, disciplined, and virtuous ascetic. Who knows what perverse whim he will follow or what path his rage will take? If he harms the sage's body thin from austerities, he will also harm his own royal standing and the renown he has acquired from it, and afflict our own innocent minds. So the queens departed, able to do nothing more than lament and sigh, at which point the king approached the eminent seer, reviling him and drawing his sword in anger, intent on slaying him with his very own hands. But when he saw that the great being bravely remained unchanged despite the attack, his demeanor unwavering and composed, the king addressed him with even greater rage. How perfectly he plays the role of an ascetic, parading his deceitful arrogance. He even looks at me like a sage. Yeah. So you see, again, I mentioned this in other contexts, but you see, when we read these stories, okay, maybe it's hard to identify with the bodhisattva, but maybe we can all identify with the king at this time, right? Have you ever been very angry? And then, people say, no, it's not like that. No, don't think of it like that, right? And then that makes us even more angry. And even the person we're upset with, they're kind to us, and then we think even that is some kind of, yeah, game they're playing with us, and it's not really sincere, and that makes us even more angry. Has that happened to you? Más o menos. Okay. But the Bodhisattva was so familiar with forbearance that his steadiness remained unruffled by this act of disrespect. Although surprised, he instantly recognized that the king's hideous behavior was so fueled by anger and rage that he had dropped all refinements of politeness or courtesy and had lost sight of what would bring him harm or benefit. Feeling pity for the king and intending to advise him, he earnestly addressed him with words somewhat as follows. To be disrespected is common in the world. Fate or sin may cause it. It is of no concern. What pains me is that I have not treated you as one should a visitor, nor even a greeting. Besides, great king, men like you who act for the welfare of beings and direct wrongdoers onto the right path should not act out of rash violence, for they should follow the path of reason. Even virtue can sometimes be seen as wrong, while evil can sometimes appear other than it is. The right way to act cannot be seen instantly unless one considers the specific conditions. But if he ponders his task, understands reality, and puts into action a policy that is just, a king will gain great spiritual and material joy, both for his people and also for himself. So discipline your unsteady mind and pursue actions leading to glory. For scandals arise when men of note commit unexpected transgressions. In an ascetic grove protected by your mighty arms, you would never allow a person to destroy moral conduct in a way deplored by noble men. So how can you decide to do it yourself, king? If your women happen to come to my hermitage with their attendants, what crime have I committed to make you so transformed by rage? Even if I did commit some crime, it would befit you to forbear, my king. The chief ornament in a man of power, forbearance shows acuity in guarding virtue. Neither blue earrings flashing against their cheeks, nor various bright gems embedded in crowns can adequately adorn kings like forbearance. Therefore, please do not show contempt for it. Renounce impatience. It cannot be relied upon. Instead, guard forbearance like the earth. For the conduct of kings towards ascetic should be proper and adorned with respect. So this again, this comes up so many times, right? All of the external kind of ornaments and all that. The real ornament is, the disciplining of the mind, and here in particular, forbearance or the perfection of patience. So this is actually good to keep in mind, right? So you see, in the Bodhisattva trying to give advice for the king, he says, okay, because it's like this, right? When we are in the midst of a strong affliction like anger, of course, we have a distorted view of reality. And especially when we take things personally, right? The king was thinking it was an affront to him, right? But the Bodhisattva is trying to say, like, okay, if in general you thought about like a third party and you heard about someone harming an ascetic in the forest, wouldn't you not stand for it, right? In an ascetic grove protected by your mighty arms, you would never allow a person to destroy moral conduct in a way deplored by noble men. So how can you decide to do it yourself, king? Right? Right? So this is like the third party, sort of impartial. If we heard, someone wanting to, destroy an ascetic living in the forest, you'd be like, what? No, don't do that. And the king himself would use his might to protect such a person. So if that's the case, then the Bodhisattva is saying, how could you decide to do it yourself, king? Right? So of course the answer is through the anger, all the impartiality is lost, right? All of the the ability to see the situation in a balanced, accurate way is lost. But despite this advice, the king's mind remained afflicted by wickedness, and he continued to view the eminent sage with false suspicion, replying, if you are not disguised as an ascetic and really established in restraint, why do you ask me for safety under the pretext of teaching forbearance? Please hear the reason for my exhortations, Your Majesty, the Bodhisattva replied. People would say that the king had murdered an innocent ascetic, a Brahmin, and I did not want to be the reason your fame was ruined by a shameful act. It is the fixed nature of things that all creatures have to die. Therefore, I feel no fear as I review my own conduct. It was to stop you violating virtue, the origin of happiness, that I spoke to you of forbearance, since it leads to acquiring bliss. I describe forbearance to you with the joy of offering a fine gift, for it is a mine of virtue and a defense against vices. So interesting, right? Here again, right? The Bodhisattva, not wanting to be killed because he has a lot of attachment for his own life, but saying, hey, if you kill me, your fame will be destroyed, So to protect you, I don't want you to kill me. So of course, what do you think? Is this gonna assuage the king? No way. But the king disregarded these kind and true flowers of speech and addressed the eminent seer with indignation, saying, let's see how much you love forbearance. At these words, the sage slightly extended his right hand to stop the king, his long and slender fingers raised. But the king cut off the ascetic's hand with a sharp sword, as if severing a lotus from its stalk. But though his hand was cut off, his vow was so firm, he felt less pain at this than at seeing the inevitable hideous anguish his well-to-do slayer would suffer in the future. Alas, he reflected, this man has gone beyond the bounds of his welfare and is no longer capable of receiving advice. Grieving over him in this way, as if over a sick patient rejected by doctors, the Bodhisattva stayed silent. So this is also true. You see, when someone is so enmeshed in the throes of anger, then they become no longer capable of receiving advice. And even in this case, a bodhisattva, right, giving advice just makes the king more angry, right? So in that case, sometimes, only thing to do is stay silent. Abusing him further, the king addressed the ascetic once more, saying, I'll keep chopping you in this way until your body is destroyed. Give up your fraudulent vow and your wicked deceit. The Bodhisattva made no reply, knowing that the king was incapable of being advised and would remain obstinate. So the king cut off the great one's other hand, as well as his 2 arms, ears, nose, and feet. The fine sage felt neither grief nor anger when the sharp sword fell on his body. He knew the body's machinery must end and had long practiced forbearance toward people. Despite seeing his body being chopped up, his mind stayed firm in undiminished patience. He felt no pain, but kindness made the saint suffer at seeing the king's fall from morality. Those who are compassionate and strong in intelligence are not afflicted by their own pain as much as the pain of others. But as soon as he did that terrible deed, the king was struck by a fire-like fever. Stepping beyond the edge of the forest, he suddenly entered a gaping hole in the earth. There was a terrifying noise as the earth tore open, full of fiery flames, and swallowed the king. A huge din arose on all sides, and the royal party became disturbed and distraught. The king's minister knew that the strength and might of the ascetic spiritual power. The king's minister knew the strength and might of the ascetic spiritual power. Assuming that this must be the reason why the king had sunk into the earth, they worried with fear and alarm whether the eminent seer would burn up the entire country because of the king's crime. Approaching the great seer, they prostrated themselves before him, and with hands folded in respect, they begged him for forgiveness, saying, okay, so this is something just to keep in mind, right? So in general, we had said this before in terms of karma, that most of what we experience in this life is actually the ripening of actions that we've done in previous lives. Okay. But there are certain exceptions. Okay. And that is owing to the power of the field, the object to whom we, will perform these actions, either virtuous or non-virtuous. If it is a powerful field, then it can ripen in this life. So, of course, our parents, yes, the Sangha, Bodhisattvas, Arhats, Buddhas, and of course, our teachers, our gurus, then those strong, powerful field of merit, the ripening can happen even in this life. So doing this action with a mind of anger towards this bodhisattva, it could be that this earth tearing open and swallowing the king could be the ripening of that. So now the rest of the retinue are fearful of the bodhisattva's vengeance, and so they beg him for forgiveness, saying, in his rashness and ignorance, it was the king who brought you to this state. May he be the sole fuel for your blazing curse. Please do not incinerate his city. Please do not burn the innocent people here, women, children, elderly, sick Brahmins, and the distressed. Please conserve the country, the king's country, and your own morality, virtuous, ascetic. The Bodhisattva then comforted them, saying, have no fear, good people. Though he cut off with a sword my hands, feet, ears, and nose, as I dwelled virtuously in the forest without sin, how could someone such as I even think of doing him any harm? May the king live long. May no evil fall upon him. How can one be angry toward the pitiful who suffer death, disease, and suffering, enslaved by greed and hatred, and consumed by wicked deeds? If only it were possible that his wicked action had its results in me. For any association with suffering, however brief, is harsh and unbearable for those used to comfort. It is impossible for me to save this king who has burned up his own welfare. So why give up my helpless state and feel resentment toward him? Aside from the king, every being must experience suffering such as death. It is birth one should not tolerate in this world. Without it, what is suffering? How would it arise? For incalculable eons, over successive lives, my body has been destroyed in numerous ways. Why give up forbearance at my body's ruin, like giving up a jewel for a piece of straw? Dwelling in the forest, following my ascetic vow, preaching forbearance, and soon about to die, why would I feel a desire to be indignant? So do not fear, be well, and now go. Thus instructing them, the ascetic initiated them as disciples of virtue. Dedicated to his forbearance, his constantly unaltered, he ascended to heaven from his abode on earth. In this way, nothing is unbearable for those who internalize forbearance and are great with equanimity. One should narrate the story when praising the virtue of forbearance, setting the stage as an example. Likewise, one should narrate the story when illustrating the flaws of reckless behavior and impatience, or when discussing the perils of desire, setting the king as an example, saying, those who practice evil for the sake of desire thus fall upon ruin. And similarly, when demonstrating the impermanence of wealth. So, yeah, few good nuggets in here. Again, Shandideva mentions when talking about the benefits of patience and how to practice patience, thinking of the ill effects that the harm doer will receive in the future, that helps to enable us to practice patience, and even help us to generate compassion for those who have harmed us. Okay. So, and then it's very nice, the author, Arya Sura, he gives a bit of, his own kind of commentary here. What we can learn from this, right? So, of course, illustrating the flaws of reckless behavior and impatience, the perils of desire, and impermanence of wealth. Okay, so all those topics are coming in Lamrim, right? Okay. So we have finished that story. Back to the beginning. Now, just to point out something, here's the table of contents. And you see, there's a story of the goose, story of the great ape, story of the sharaba deer, the antelope, great monkey, elephant, buffalo, woodpecker. So, okay, there's 34 stories in the Jataka Tales. This text, the first stories, it's a lot of, when the Bodhisattva was a human. Toward the end, we get a lot of these stories when the Buddha was an animal. So it's a bit interesting, because we're told that the precious human rebirth is the best for practicing virtue, all this. Yet it should be known, right, that okay, in one of these stories, it says, although the Buddha was born, or the Bodhisattva was born as an animal, his previous understanding of the path had not degenerated at all. So it definitely, for us ordinary beings, then when we're reborn as an animal due to negative karma and afflictions, then we won't have any sort of understanding. But if one is a bodhisattva, then of course an Arya Bodhisattva can take rebirth, can direct their rebirth in whatever way they want, and these bodhisattvas don't lose any of their previous level of realization. Okay, so, but for us, why I'm bringing all this up, for us, we should still aspire to be born in a succession of precious human rebirths, or rebirth in a pure land where we can practice Dharma. Then, after we're bodhisattvas, it becomes a little less important, the external sort of, or the basis we have, right? And at that point, we can make prayers to be reborn, wherever is going to be most beneficial for all sentient beings. Yeah. Oh, so what I wanted to say now, we're done with that story. So in whatever time we have. So by the way, we have one more session next week on this topic. Okay, good. So this story, the birth story of Sutta Soma, I wanted to cover this one because this story is brought up in the Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand. You'll see it's actually quite longer, right? It's almost 60 pages. Some of these other ones, it's like, 40, 30, 20, 30, right? This, right? So there's a lot. Is that okay? Or do you want to hear? This one about the deer is very nice. But yeah, I wanted to do this one. Actually, they're all very nice. But in terms of other things to illustrate, let's do this one. Because you'll see later, quite a few of these stories are involving the Bodhisattva giving away his body, right? Sacrificing his body. And so we've already seen that in the story of the tigress. So I wanted to illustrate a few other things. Oh boy. Okay, hold on. It's taking a while to load. Let's go back to this. It starts on 327. Okay, here we go. Okay. So, story 31, the birth story of Sutta Soma. Virtuous company produces felicity, however it comes about. Those who seek felicity should therefore associate with the good. Okay. Tradition has handed down the following story. When he was a bodhisattva, our Lord is said to have been in the glorious lineage of the Kaurava kings, a dynasty of celebrated renown. Their commitment to virtue meant that their subjects loved them with an innate devotion, and their splendor made proud neighboring kings bow their heads before them. The Bodhisattva's father named him Sutta Soma, for he was as lovely to behold as Soma, and hundreds of virtues emanated from him like a garden of rays. Just as the moon waxes in the bright half of the month, so he grew more handsome and charming every day. In due course, he gained expertise in the Vedas, the Vedangas, and the Upavedas, and became knowledgeable in the popular arts, including their advanced levels. An object of love and respect for his people, he was eager to give effective help, showing an ever-increasing consideration for others, and possessed a disciplined sense of custodianship, all of which made him like a kingsman of the virtues. So actually, you see, this is quite similar to the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha in his last life when he manifested enlightenment, right? So one of the features of the early part of his life. The Buddha was trained in the Vedas. He became knowledgeable in all the popular arts and sciences, sporting events and all this, right? Okay. Morality, learning, generosity, pity, discipline, vigor, forbearance, wisdom, bravery, humility, modesty, shame, splendor, beauty, renown, skill, intelligence, might, and impeccability. These were his various fine virtues, almost adorned by his youth, and made him attractive by his purity and nobility, just as the moon combines different phases. Due to his inability to protect the world, as well as his good and noble nature, the king conferred on the Bodhisattva the mighty status of heir apparent. Because of his wise nature, religious maxims were particularly dear to him. He treated with exceptional honor anyone who came to him with fine sayings. One day, accompanied by a small group of soldiers, the great one set out on a pleasure trip to one of the calm-inducing parks that surround the city. The blossoming season had decorated the gardens with lovely and delightful sprays. Blooming flowers made the park smile captivatingly, and the ground was protected by a carpet of fresh grass. Ponds of pure water were strewn with the petals of blue and white lotuses, while swarms of buzzing honey bees roamed around. There were flocks of noisy cuckoos and peacocks, and a soft breeze blew, fragrant, cool, and soothing. So he roamed in that grove echoing with cuckoos, adorned by captivating gardens and bowers, its various trees bending under blossoms, like one enjoying merit in Nandana with dear ladies. Taking pleasure in the beauty of the forest, he delighted in the drunken, playful charms of the women, in their singing punctuated by the lovely music of instruments, and in the skillful coquetry and graceful moves of their dance. So again, right? Okay. So, even bodhisattvas, they go on vacation, right? Or they take a day off. So yeah, took a pleasure trip to one of the parks surrounding the city. Okay. Taking, pleasure in the singing and dancing of the women that accompany him. Okay. While he was there, a Brahmin approached him, a reciter of fine sayings. The Brahmin was received respectfully and with due courtesy and sat down, captivated by the prince's beauty, even though he was enjoying the youthful games that derived from his store of rich merit. The great being had great regard for the Brahmin's visit. But before the Brahmin could reap any reward from reciting his wise sayings, a tumultuous noise suddenly interrupted the singing and music, destroying the party's enjoyment of their indulgent play. The commotion filled the women with fear and despair, and concerned at the noise, the great being directed the harem supervisors to discover what had occurred. Running up to him anxiously, their faces wretched with fear and despair, the wardens informed him as follows: "It is Sudasha's son, the cannibal Kalmashapada, Your Majesty. Like death incarnate, he habitually kills hundreds of men. His mind is more brutal than ogres, and his strength, vigor, and pride are superhuman. As frightful and vicious as a demon, he is coming to this very place like the terror of the world in person." Okay, so you understand, right? So the prince is there. The Brahmin comes. The Brahmin, But before the Brahmin could reap any reward from reciting his wise sayings, then this kind of demon comes. Okay. Our army has fled, its courage consumed by fear. The chariots, horses, and elephants are in disarray, and the troops are in turmoil. Your Majesty should employ a countermeasure or consider what needs to be done. Who is the son of Sudasha, gentlemen? Sudasoma asked, even though he already knew the answer. Does your Majesty not know of King Sudasha? Sudasa, they replied. King Sudasa once went on a hunting expedition on horseback, penetrating the dense forest. There he copulated with a lioness. The lioness became pregnant and after some time gave birth to a baby boy. Some forest dwellers took the child and brought him to Sudasa, and since he was childless, Sudasa raised him. When his father passed away, departing for the city of the gods, the king took over the kingship. The son took over the kingship. But because of his mother's nature, he was addicted to raw meat. On tasting human flesh, he found it had an excellent flavor, and so he began to murder people in his very own city so as to eat them. The people in the city then tried to kill him. Terrified, the son of Sudasa made a vow to eat goblins that eat offerings of human flesh and blood, saying, if I escape this plight, I will sacrifice 100 royal princes to you. He escaped his plight and therefore violently kidnapped many royal princes. This man has now come to snatch away your Majesty too. Now that you have heard this, we will let your Majesty be the judge. Okay. The Bodhisattva already knew of the errant and morally corrupt nature of Sudasha's son, and in his compassion desired to cure him, since he considered that he was capable of quelling that man's moral aberration. He felt as joyful at hearing the son of Sudasha's arrival as if he had received welcome news. Resolutely addressing the men, he therefore said, in his greed for human flesh, this man has fallen from royalty. Like a vile maniac, he has lost all self-control. His morality is abandoned, his merit and fame destroyed. His condition is a lamentable one. It is appropriate for me to attack such a man or shudder in fear when he suffers this plight. I will instead destroy his evil utterly without effort, violent or force. I'm sorry. Is it appropriate for me to attack such a man or shudder in fear when he suffers this plight? I will instead destroy his evil utterly without effort, violence, or force. I would pity him even if he were departing, but in fact, he approaches me himself. I should therefore offer him hospitality, for this is how the good act towards guests. Attend therefore to your normal duties, gentlemen. Instructing the supervisors of the harem in this way, he turned to the women who were preparing to block the path of the man-eater, their eyes agitated and wide with despair, their throats choked with distress. After he had comforted them, the prince advanced toward the noise. There he saw the son of Sudasha pursuing the fleeing royal army. A loose hanging girdle tied up his filthy clothes, and a long matted beard darkly covered his face. His straggly disheveled hair was coarse with dust and held back by a strip of bark. Wielding a sword and shield, his terrifying eyes rolled with furious rage. Feeling no fear or terror, the prince challenged the son of Sudasha, saying, "Hey, I am Soma. Come here. Why are you busy killing these wretched men? The the son of Shudasa's pride was stirred by this challenge, and he turned around like a lion. When he saw the Bodhisattva bearing his natural kind looks and standing all alone without armor or weapon, he cried out, "You're exactly who I'm hunting for." Without hesitating, he rushed up to him violently, hastened by his rage. The prince, placing the prince on his shoulder, he then ran away. The Bodhisattva, for his part, observed with some concern. The son of Sudasa's mind was still whipped up with anger and pride and surging with rage. His gleeful arrogance had also been increased by routing the royal troops. The prince therefore continued to show him indifference, judging that now was not the right moment to instruct him. The son of Sudasha, on the other hand, had acquired what seemed to him a very fine taking. Joyful at fulfilling his desire, he entered his impregnable home. Heaving with the corpses of slaughtered men, its hideous ground drenched with blood, the dwelling seemed to make harsh, angry threats with its bright fires and ominous jackal howls. Covered by trees discolored with the smoke of various pyres, their rough, dark red leaves inhabited by vultures and crows, the earth, wow, I'm having some trouble reading today. By the way, my exam is tomorrow, so I've been, seeing double. Yeah. Okay. The evil dwelling, terrified with his dancing demons and ghosts, making the eyes of travelers become fixed with fear when seen from afar. After placing the Bodhisattva on the ground, the son of Sudasha took some rest and stared at the prince, continuously captivated by his beauty. The Bodhisattva, however, recalled the unhonored Brahmin who had come with his gift of wise sayings and who would still be waiting, expecting for the prince's return to the park. Filled with anxiety, he thought, alas, that Brahmin came from afar, offering wise sayings with hope. What will his reaction be when he hears of my capture? Seized by the fire of disappointment, afflicted by fatigue, bitter with despair, he will sigh and grieve for me or blame his own fortune. Okay, so you understand, right? So this, remember, at the beginning, the prince was there. This Brahmin came and sort of gave him some wise verses, and the prince wanted to repay that kindness, but before he had the opportunity to do so, this demon, the son of Sudasha, came and kidnapped him and then took him to his cave. Okay. So deep-seated was the great being's compassion that he shed tears as he pondered these thoughts, his mind tormented by the Brahmin's suffering. When he saw the Bodhisattva's eyes welling with tears, the son of Sudasha laughed and addressed him, saying, "Don't be like that, good fellow. Your many fine virtues make you famed for bravery, yet you shed tears on entering my home. It is true what they say, in calamity, bravery has no reward. In grief, learning is useless, for there exists no living being who does not tremble when afflicted. So tell me the truth. Do you grieve for your dear wife or life? Do you grieve for your dear life or for pleasure bringing wealth or for your relatives, or for lordship over men? Do tears cover your face from remembering your dear son, your father, or your weeping children? Okay. The Bodhisattva answers, I do not shed tears from considering my life, parents, children, relatives, wives, or royal pleasures. I weep from recalling a Brahmin who came to me hopeful with wise sayings. Surely when he hears of my capture, he'll be consumed with disappointment. Therefore, please, therefore let me go. Sprinkling him with the water of honor, I can revive his heart crushed by lost hope and receive his sweet, wise sayings. After I've paid my debt to him, I will return to pay my debt to you. The sight of my arrival bringing joy to your eyes. Do not suspect that this is a ruse to escape. Men such as I follow a path different from others, King. The son of Sudasha replied, your earnest words quite beggar belief. Who would return when released safely from the jaws of death? If you survive death's peril so difficult to escape, why return to me again, once in your cozy fine palace? Okay, so you understand, right? The Bodhisattva is asking for this son of Sudasha to let him go so that he can go to the Brahmin and make offerings to him because he received these teachings. But of course, this demon son is skeptical, thinking, oh, if I let you go now, why would you come back to me? How can you not know my mighty reason for returning, good sir? The Bodhisattva asked. Have I not promised that I will return? You should not suspect that I am some rogue. I am Sutasoma. True that out of greed or fear of death, some reject truth as if it were chaff. But truth is the wealth and life of the virtuous. They will never abandon it, even in peril. Neither life nor worldly pleasures can protect one from bad rebirth if one falls from truth. Truth is a mine of satisfaction, fame, and joy. Who would sacrifice it for these other pursuits? If a person clearly walks the path of evil, or showing no proof of a striving for good, one cannot trust in their moral purity. What have you seen in me to mistrust? If I had feared you or lacked pity or had been attached to pleasures, would I not have faced one so famed for cruelty, with sword and armor, haughty with bravery? Perhaps I wanted to be acquainted with you after ensuring the Brahmin's effort bears fruit. I will return to you again of my own accord, for men such as I do not utter falsehoods. Okay? So, yeah. Here again, we see, right? Irritated by the Bodhisattva's seeming boasts. Okay? So the Bodhisattva is being truthful, but of course, this doesn't have the intended effect. Instead, he's irritated, thinking, this fellow really does brag about speaking the truth and being righteous. Well, let's see how attached he is to the truth and how fond he is of virtue. What does it matter if I lose him anyway? I already have a total of 100 warrior princes subdued by the mighty strength of my arms. I can use them as a sacrifice to the goblins as requested. Thinking this, he said to the Bodhisattva, well, go then. Let's see your virtue and how true you are to your promises. Leave and fulfill the Brahmin's desire. Come back. Okay, my loan has expired, but it's letting me have this page. Leave and fulfill the Brahmin's desire and come back quickly. I'll be preparing a pyre for you. So you guys know what a pyre is, right? They normally talk funeral pyre. It's the wood that is then going to be burned, usually for a body. But in this case, they're just going to roast. This demon is just going to roast the prince, not burn him entirely. Okay? So be it. The Bodhisattva agreed and returned to his palace, where he was joyfully received by his people. Summoning the Brahmin, the Bodhisattva heard him recite 4 verses. On hearing them, the great being's heart was gladdened, and he pleased the Brahmin with kind words and acts of honor, valuing each verse at 1,000 coins and venerating him with whatever rewards he desired. The Bodhisattva's father, however, was intent on restraining the prince from any excessive and inappropriate expense. When an opportunity arose to broach the topic, he politely addressed the Bodhisattva, saying, "My son, it would be good if you could recognize some measure when honoring the wise sayings. Your people are many and need support. A king's majesty depends on the wealth of his treasury. Let me tell you this. To honor a wise saying with 100 coins is already a high reckoning. More is not fit. Even if he is kubera, if he gives too much, how long can a king's splendid riches last? Wealth is the chief power and means to success. If he obstructs it, one cannot live by desire. Like a harlot, fortune shows no regard for a king without riches." Let's see if we can borrow again. So you get this, right? The prince goes back. The Brahmin comes, gives him 4 verses, and the king repays that by giving, 1,000 coins. These are gold coins, for each of the verse. So 4,000 gold coins. Can you imagine? So the son, does this. The father then says, "Hey, it's good to be generous and all that, but you're giving too big offerings." And so now the Bodhisattva replied, "But if one could set a value on wise sayings, divine king, I would certainly not be blamed if I gave my very kingdom to buy them." Hearing such words calms the heart, strengthening its love of goodness, its darkness dispelled through increased wisdom. One would use one's own very flesh to buy them. Knowledge is a lamp destroying dark ignorance. Thieves and the like cannot gain this chief wealth, a weapon for toppling the foe that is delusion. It is our principal advisor, teaching the right way. An unchanging friend, even in calamity. Knowledge is a painless cure for grief's ills. A mighty army to crush the forces of evil. It is the chief receptacle of fame and glory. Knowledge is the basis of elegant speech, a charming gift in good company. Eloquence delights the wise in assemblies, shedding light on hostile doctrines. It dispels the proud fame of rivals. Superiority of eloquence is proclaimed by the bright eyes and glowing faces of even strangers thrilled with great joy, their praise extending to their fingertips. By skillfully setting treatises and teachings, eloquence reveals meaning by clear reason. Through its captivating charm and refinement, it resembles a garland of unwithered flowers, blazing with bright and controlled light. Eloquence gives a direct rise to fame when applied. The glory of knowledge thus provides a clear path to success. Listeners of knowledge follow 3 pursuits: a path free from the obstacles of vice. By behaving in accord with knowledge, they easily cross the perilous realm of rebirth. Renowned this way for many virtues, I have received these teachings like a gift. How can I not honor them if able to? But then how can I ignore your command? I will therefore go to the son of Surashah. I have no desire for the toil of kingship, nor for the result of following evil if I neglectfully violate my virtue. Affection made the father fill with anxiety. My son, he said with concern, it was solely out of regard for your welfare that I spoke these words. Do not be so upset about it. Let your enemies go and submit themselves before the son of Surashah. Although you have promised to return to him, though you wish to fulfill your vow because you cherish truth, I will not allow it. Men who know the Vedas say there is no offense in falsehood if it is done to save one's life or to benefit elders. Why would you incur hardship by ignoring this teaching? Experts in political science declare it is wrong and disastrous for kings to subscribe to morality if it clearly conflicts with pragmatism or desire. So stop tormenting my heart and cease your stubborn disregard for your own welfare. I appreciate, my son, that you cannot bring yourself to break this promise because you think it would be disreputable and immoral, and also because you're unused to such actions. But I have a huge army of elephants, horses, chariots, and infantrymen equipped and ready to rescue you, as terrifying as a mighty flood. Accomplished and loyal, they are brave and skilled in weaponry. They have been consecrated by many battles. Surrounded by these troops, approach the son of Surashah and force him against his will to submit to you or to death. In this way, you'll fulfill your promise and also protect yourself. The Bodhisattva, okay, so you understand? The king is saying, okay, I know you have made this promise to go back to him, but why don't you go back to him surrounded by your army? So you'll still fulfill your promise, but you also protect yourself. The Bodhisattva replied, I could not bear to promise on one thing but do another, nor am I capable of harming people who are so helpless. Sinking into the mud of calamity and abandoned by their friends and relatives, they are headed for hell and deserve our pity. Besides, that man-eater performed a difficult and noble deed for me. Trusting my words, he released me, even though I was in his power. It is because of him, Father, that I acquired these wise sayings. In rendering this service, he particularly deserves my compassion. Okay. Nor should you worry that I may come to him, come to harm, divine Father, divine Lord. For how can he harm me if I go to him? Okay. So, our time is up for this week. So we're at a good part to pause. Okay. So now the prince is made up his mind. He's going to go return to the demon after having received those teachings from the Brahmin and made offerings to repay the kindness of the Brahmin for teaching. Okay. So we're on page 357. Can one of you make a note of that? 357. I used to live at a 357. That was once my address.
No way. That's my address.
Really? Wow. 357. Now I'm at house 88. 88 Sergey. 88 is very auspicious. Okay. So next week we will continue with the rest of that story, and then maybe have yeah, the story of the deer is quite nice. The story of the monkey is also quite nice. I mean, all the stories are nice, but what I was trying to do is select stories that you then see in the other text that you're reading it, right? So this text, this story, do you recognize it from the liberation in the palm of your hand? Okay, I thank you for your honesty, right? We saw the Bodhisattva being very honest, so we also have to be honest, even if that means we get some, scolding. Okay. Okay. Is there? Is there? Uh, in liberation of the palm of your hand. Anyway, it talks in the kind of beginning about the benefits of listening to teachings. It mentions, actually, I had brought up uh, points. So let's see. Uh-huh. Here we go. We are told it is right if needs be to cut off your flesh and sell it. Oh, hold on. Am I not doing a screen share? The liberation of the palm of your hand. We are told it is right, if needs be, to cut off your flesh and sell it for the sake of your studies. But now that you can study in comfort without having to mutilate your body, you ought to study with enthusiasm. I should have read this a couple weeks ago. The above verse was given to the Bodhisattva, Prince Chandra, Viligalita, one of Shakyamuni's former lives, after he had offered 1,000 gold coins for each lines in the verse. So here. Whoever has studied will develop faith. He will be steadfast and will delight in excellent. He will develop wisdom and have no belighted ignorance. It is right even to sell one's flesh to obtain it. So I think it's that. But now I'm I think so. Although there is the story of the Bodhisattva returning to this demon that had released him. So that's also there. So anyway, this story will be, referred to in a different context. Maybe we'll find that for next week. In any case, let's leave it there for this week. I think I need my second coffee of the day because I'm not seeing straight. So in the chat, yes, that is it. Someone found that link, so you can also read it 1 hour at a time. Okay. Yeah. Oops. Oops. Huh, interesting. Ah, where is it? See, I'll have to do it the old-fashioned way. So this one verse, here we go. I'd search for whatever virtues, but it's whatever virtue. That's how they translate this. So you guys know this verse, right? You know where it's from? It's from the Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, actually. It's the verse for that. But it is recited at the end of teachings often. So may whatever virtue I've collected benefit the teaching and all transmigratory beings, and in particular, may it cause the essence of perfect pure Losam Drakpa's teachings to shine forever. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to mention here, right? So, in general, there's 3 ways we can dedicate for the benefit of all sentient beings, mean all sentient beings become enlightened as quickly as possible, right? So that's there. But benefiting the teachings and the long lives of the gurus, okay? So Chitra Rinpoche, he said those are the 3 kind of essential ones. But if we don't have time, let's say we're very stressed out because we're giving an exam tomorrow and we're, like months behind in our studies, then actually, if we do one of the 3, is good enough. Why? Because how are sentient beings going to become enlightened? Well, they need to practice Dharma. So they need the teachings. Okay. Now, how are they going to get the teachings? Just from a book? No. They need the teachers that can give them the explanation. Okay. So even if you just dedicate for the teachings to flourish, by the way, also the teachers, the qualified teachers that will give these teachings will also have to be. Okay. If you just pray for the long lives of the spiritual friends, okay, well, what are they going to do? Right? Well, they're going to teach. That's why they're here. Okay. So in any case, don't think that even if we just do this one dedication verse, that somehow it's incomplete. Okay. Because what it means for Losang Drakpa's teachings to shine forever, it doesn't mean we print the texts and, or I don't know, we even write them in gold glittery pen, right? Losang Drakpa's teachings to shine forever means, actually, this is very poetic, selche sho, yeah? That has actually a double meaning. The real teachings to shine means that there's people who understand and have realization of the teachings, right? So what that means, if people have realized the teachings, then they're already, traversing the path to enlightenment. Okay. So anyway, let us dedicate like that. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lam Cho.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Best wishes on your exam.
Yes.
Good luck for your exams, Vanderbilt. Thank you.
Yes. Good luck.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. We say, you've made your bed, now you have to sleep in it. So yeah, it's okay. There's a lesson in that as well. You know, so yeah, you know, the other sutra that I mention a lot, the Sangata Sutra. There's this king, or I don't know, he's not even a king, but like a very rich person. And then he's coming to the end of his life, and he realizes basically how much time he wasted.
Mm.
And he says, no, after that, you know, the lesson is like, okay, now at my time of death, although I look for a protector, who is going to be my protector except for the ripening of the virtuous actions that I have done? You know what I mean? Very, very, very profound. So now, right, say good luck on your exam. But then now, you know, about to enter the exam, it's like, okay, you know, even though the people say, right, you create your own good luck, right? So what good luck can I have except for having prepared for the exam by studying, right? I get a vision of Manjushri telling me the answers, you know? Maybe Tara will have compassion. Maybe Tara can come. Anyway, so the point is, yeah, I appreciate, you know. So thank you. Anyway,
Thank you.
we'll see you next week. Be well.
I
Bye-bye. Thank you.